Welcome to the USU Career Studio podcast that helps you navigate your career path. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to tell your friends and family all about it. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else you listen to get access to our newest content. Thanks for joining us for our Friday face-to-face episode. I'm Marissa Armitstead, your host, and I'm excited to welcome alum and environmental engineer Sarah Guzman to the show. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Marissa. Thank you so much for the invite. I'm very excited to be here and assisting you with this amazing project that you guys are doing at Utah State.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Sarah. We're so excited to have you here as an alum to chat about your experience. And, this month we're really diving into the College of Engineering and talking about some possible career paths. So I'm really excited to chat with you today. And maybe to start with, do you mind just giving us a little bit of context, like talk about your educational journey, maybe a little bit of what was going on with your career during that time and how all of that led to working at Cache Environmental Laboratories?
Yes, absolutely. So I got my bachelor's on biological engineering, and then I got my master's on environmental engineering. During those years when I was completing my education, I was working at different places at Utah State University. And during my junior year, I started working at the Utah Water Research Lab, that is by the first dam in Logan. And I started working there as a dishwasher, which means I was just washing beakers all day.
Yes.
Then eventually I moved up at the lab and I started working as a research assistant, and I was performing environmental testing for the PhD students and the postdoc students. And that's how I didn't just discover environmental engineering, that's how I fell in love with that. And that's how I decided to pursue my master's on environmental engineering.
Wow. Okay. So when you first got that first beaker cleaning job, did you already know you had an interest, or was that just kind of like a happenstance? You ended up there? Talk to me more about that.
Yes, no, I was just looking for a job. As a student, you are just looking for what is going to give you more money.
Yes.
Your time is so limited, and you don't really want to look for like a full-time job or like not even a part-time job sometimes. So I found that in the job board at the TSC. In Utah State, and I just went and applied for it. It was just amazing. I really didn't know a lot about environmental engineering. I had some friends that were studying that, but I was not very aware of everything that environmental engineer meant.
Yeah. And I'm another follow-up question to this. Because a lot of times when students take a student job, they're not thinking this is going to help me determine my career or like lead me to a career path. But for you, it did. And so I'm curious, like what helped you stay curious in a job that maybe you didn't see as being long term?
I think that when I started performing the environmental testing and I started learning about like the different processes, where the samples are coming from, why are we testing soil? Why are we testing plants? Why are we collecting rainwater to test it? There were a lot of questions that I'm like, why are we doing this? And the more I learn, I always been like a curious person by nature. So the more I learn, the more I start getting into interested on environmental engineering.
Very cool. Such a unique path. And I'm grateful that you're sharing all of that with us. Again, for our students to hear lots of different ways that we can get to an end goal, I think is so helpful. So I appreciate you sharing that. I'd love to switch gears a little bit here and talk about your work as an environmental engineer. But before we dive too deep, maybe give us, like a really simple definition of what does an environmental engineer actually do?
That is a very good question. So the short answer to your question is, we save the planet.
Wow. Okay. Tell me more.
Environmental engineers, it really depends, on which field or in which area you decide to go. But in a nutshell, we research environmental issues and we create plans to decrease the effects of those issues into the environment. So it really, when I say depends on the area that you go to, like you can go into water, you can go into air quality, you can go into biosolids. But at the end of the day, an environmental engineer, it's going to be researching issues that are environmental issues that are associated with that field. And we're going to be creating and implementing solutions for those type of problems.
Super interesting. So it sounds like it's very region specific or dependent. And I'm curious, with that, so you're working for Cash Environmental, and I'm curious, what are some of the issues that you all are working on specifically there?
Environmental issues, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Some of the issues that we have been working on recently is with industrial wastewater. So we have been looking on different processes on how we can optimize the treatment of industrial water. Because this water, it's going to have a lot of contaminants, it's going to have high heavy metals. So we are always trying to find a way that address the needs of our clients and that is cost effective for them.
Wow. So interesting. So interesting. Okay. So talk to me a little bit more about, when you think about the day-to-day tasks, what skills are really important for an environmental engineer to have to be successful?
In my opinion, skill sets that you probably need to have if you want to be an environmental engineer is creativity. We are always looking for problems to solve, and most of the time you need to think outside of the box. So this is not a job that you're going to be, that an equation is going to give you the answer to the problem. So creativity is a big one. You need to like to solve problems. So it has to be someone who is problem solving driven, that it's going to put him or herself out there to find a solution for the issue that they are facing. And lastly, someone who is a team player, because you either are going to be overseeing a team or you're going to be working on a team. So you need to be a team player, you need to keep good communication with everyone. And I feel that those three skills combined are going to make an environmental engineer succeed on the area.
I love that. And I love that you're hitting on this topic of curiosity. As a career coach, we often are talking to students and inviting them to really kind of dig into their curiosities. And that's exactly what led you to your job. So I love that. I love that. I'd love to learn more about your favorite parts of the job, right? So we know no job is perfect in the sense of there will always be tasks that we don't like. But in terms of the things that just get you going, that you go to work for, what are some of those like tasks or activities?
When I discovered environmental engineer, all the projects that I was working on, they were trying to find a solution for a problem, like for an environmental problem. So that's always been my number one drive. Like I always want to find what is the solution that it's going to improve the environment. How can we save the planet? Like that's something very personal of myself. But something that I really enjoy, that is like my favorite part of my job, I have to say it's my mentor, who is my boss, and my team. I feel very grateful that I have someone that I can go to when I need guidance about something, when I have questions, when I don't understand something. It's very fulfilling to have a mentor who is going to take the time to spend that time with you, teaching you new things, and making sure that you succeed on your role. And my team, we just have an amazing team there. So I really enjoy every day that I'm working with them. Sometimes it doesn't feel that you're going to work, like, oh, I'm excited because we're going to be talking about this issue and we're going to be finding a solution for it. I know it sounds a little bit nerdy, but
No, definitely. And I love that you're hitting on mentorship. As students are thinking about any kind of career, I think that's such good advice to look for a company that is going to provide you mentorship so that you can grow as a professional. Yeah, I think that's such an important piece. So I love that is something that you love about your job. That's awesome.
Yeah, of course.
I'd also, okay, so kind of a different question here, but I am curious, maybe going into engineering, did you have some preconceived notions of what an engineer was? And what were some of those that maybe you got into the work and thought, oh, that's not what an engineer does at all? Any ideas or thoughts there?
Yes, that is a very interesting question. When what I thought my typical day would be, it would be like, oh, they're gonna give me a problem that I need to solve with an equation, my calculator, I have to design something or model something. But something that I've learned is that there are many different versions of what a typical workday actually is on engineering, because you can go from like do a sale pitch to a client, you can be outside in all kinds of weather, you can be in front of your computer all day, or you can be working with your team solving different issues and different challenges. So this is not like a cookie cutter type of typical day that you're going to find.
No, that's a great point. I'm curious, as kind of a follow up to our conversation about skills required, when you think about maybe like the technical side of things, what technical programs or skills, if any, what are you using like on a maybe daily or at least like monthly or weekly basis?
Yes, absolutely. Something that we use on my company, we use AutoCAD. That's a drawing software that help us a lot to visualize something before we bring it to reality. So AutoCAD is a good example of what is a drafting software. So that's something that you will see there. Other technical skills that we look when we are that we look for like in people to bring into the company. It's design, modeling, drafting, statistical analysis. Those are things that we are always looking on different people when they come into the company.
Definitely. I think that's helpful. And again, as a student, thinking about career paths, it's helpful to know what are some of the skills that I need to start developing now, like my freshman or sophomore year, so that I can have some competency in, when I enter the workforce. So super helpful that you mentioned AutoCAD. I think that's a great skill for maybe students who are interested in pursuing engineer to start thinking about now. I would love to hear, Sarah, about maybe a favorite project that you've worked on, something that felt meaningful or that you were really inspired by. Any projects come to mind?
Yeah, we were working on this project, treating helping an industrial wastewater treatment plant optimize their process to remove metals on a more efficient and cost-effective way. That has to be one of my favorite projects because we had so much interaction with our clients. We were at this plant pretty much every single day, Monday through Friday for like 10 months. Wow. We were taking samples every hour. We were collecting so much data that at the end of the project, we had to analyze. Like this project taught me a lot on how like the different strength that you actually need to be successful on this type of career. Like I knew that was not going to be what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life, like that specific project. But during those 10 months, it taught me a lot on how to be disciplined, on how to organize my workload, and how to prioritize my tasks. So I really enjoy working there. And it also helped me develop my communication skill with my clients. I have to step out of my comfort zone, and I have to be, I have to put myself out there when something was not going the right way or when something was not going as expected.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love this experience. It sounds like it was a really huge learning opportunity to kind of get your toes wet and really learn some good practices for yourself as a professional. So I love that.
Let me tell you something else. Something that students need to keep in mind when they are thinking about engineering is that you are going to be learning every single day of your life. If you think that learning is done in college, let me tell you that that's not right. You're going to be learning every day something different. And you need to keep an open mind because, you're going to be learning about business. Maybe you're not interested in that, but you're going to have to learn, about business, interpersonal skills. So I just want to throw that out there on something else that also surprised me when I started working as an engineer.
Yeah, that's such a great nugget. And I love that you're touching on this idea that we're constantly learning, constantly growing. and you never really reach that epitome of the perfect, any profession, right? We always have the ability to learn more. So I'm really grateful you touched on that. Sarah, I would love to ask a question connected to potential other career paths. So, as a student, again, is exploring, maybe they think, oh, like engineering sounds kind of interesting. What are some other types of work or occupations that your role overlaps with or interacts with that maybe a student might be curious about as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Other path that my skill set can transfer to, it's biological engineering. That's when I started getting my bachelor's on. So it was easy to transition into my master's degree of environmental. Chemical engineering, I was not aware of how much chemical engineering has to do with environmental engineering, process engineering, and project management. I think that those four will be the other career path that your skill sets can transfer to if you're interested in environmental engineering.
Super interesting. I'm curious, if a student, again, let's say we're maybe like sophomore or junior-ish, and they're still kind of trying to figure out what niche of engineering they're maybe interested in. What do you recommend? Is it maybe looking at taking another minor? Is it doing an internship? Is it just going and getting like volunteer experience? I don't know. What do you think helps a student kind of identify their own personal route?
I think that's a great question, Marisa. Let me tell you why, because I had the same struggles when I was a junior. So before I started working in the water lab, I needed to start thinking about my technical elective that I had to take. So as a biological engineering, back on my days, I had to take, I think it was 3 or 4 elective of my choice. So when I started working at the water lab, that helped me, identify like, okay, maybe let me take my electives on environmental engineering. And that's exactly what I did. I think that I took 3 out of 4 subjects on environmental engineering. And that helped me a lot on learning and understanding what that was about. Other things that I would recommend students to do elective, find a job. And I really like something that you mentioned, that it was community work. If you go volunteer yourself, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of volunteer opportunities out there on different paths that you can just go and start getting some experience, and that will get your feet wet. That will let you know, like, oh, maybe this is for me. Oh, maybe that's not for me. So I think those are good, solid options that students should look into. Something else that I want to throw out there is like, talk to the grad students, talk to master students, talk to
Yes.
PhD students. Like maybe if I'm doing environmental engineering and I'm thinking on going and getting a master's on mechanical engineering, go talk to them. They will be the best resources to tell you what their experience has been on that field.
Oh, Sarah, that is such a great insight. Oftentimes we refer students to alumni who are currently in a field to go and talk about a profession, but what a great idea to talk to a current student, like a master's student who is like in the research or in the program to get insights. I think that is such a great idea that is overlooked oftentimes. So I love that. I also loved your insight about taking electives that can help us do some exploration. Whether it's your general education electives or within your actual, major program electives. Such a great point. So really good insights for students. I hope they're all taking notes about that. Well, Sarah, I am so grateful for your willingness to hop on the show today. And I do want to just close out with one final question. And that question is, if there was one piece of advice that you could give to students who are considering pursuing a degree and also career in engineering, what would it be?
Never give up. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have horrible days. You might have professors that you don't like, that they might not like you, but never give up. Just swallow it and wake up the next day and go stronger than ever. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. So just, if that's really is your passion, never give up on it.
Oh, what a great note to end on. Sarah, thank you so much for hopping on the call today, sharing your insights, maybe some of the bumps in the road, but also the greatest successes. I so appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you so much for the invite. This has been an amazing opportunity to share, my side of things. So thank you so much for the invite.
Absolutely. We hope you loved this episode of the USU Career Stadio podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with your friends and family.